The price of gold increases. I think the whole industry is going to be burst.
When the home buyers will take possession of a new house, never rush for the renovation.
But sometimes the problem is the whole project itself. Hello everybody, welcome to yet another episode of Beyond the Headlines, the go-to space for the top stories that made the headlines and more. My name is Amalina Kamal, your host for this latest round of Information Digest. Now today, we're diving into a fascinating crossroads where global economics, consumer trust, and shifting power dynamics are all colliding in real time. At the center of it all, trade tensions are flaring before our eyes, as we know, with the Trump administration floating sweeping tariffs, including a hefty 145% on Chinese goods and other countries which aren't exactly off the hook either. Now, we're not here to take sides, of course, but it's hard to ignore the fresh friction this is creating in an already fragile global supply chain. And here in Malaysia, we're feeling the ripple effects too. Now, people have been increasingly wary of inflated prices and uncertain returns. Many are choosing to park their money somewhere in something more tangible, gold. Now, joining us to assist in the discussion is Datuk Rasul Abdul Razak, President of the Malaysian Indian Goldsmith and Jewelers Association. Welcome, Datuk. Thank you so much for joining us.
Ms. Lina, greetings to you.
Now, in the second half, still on big consumer decisions, imagine this. You've just collected the keys to your brand new home, and then the honeymoon ends. Well, imagine suddenly you're facing with leaky plumbing, cracked walls, uneven tiles, and your dream home is now a to-do list. Property expert Joshua Kang joins us on set, and he will basically be taking us through all too familiar journey of what happens after you move in. So Joshua, thank you so much for being on set today.
Hi, Amalina. Thank you for having me today.
Yeah, we're glad that you're here as well because, the idea of having your dream home sometimes is not as, clear-cut as it might seem. So it's great that you are here with your 20 years of experience. But we will get to that. First, we want to talk about the top headline, basically, gold, and how it affects market dynamics. Now, Datuk Roslan, first question to you is that we want to know how are the rising gold prices affecting consumer purchasing? And how is it different between different income groups?
Now the industry is now heading to ICU, which is going to be under a very critical situation. Now, what we can see now is the price has gone up extremely high, which we did not expect it. The whole world is not expected. The reason why the price have gone up is a big question mark. After our American President, Mr. Donald Trump, has taken over the office, a lot of tremendous changes have happened, which has affected many industries. Like our gold industry is totally drowned in the world. So I hope it has to quickly come back to recover, because the reason why we are now looking at the situation is because many manufacturers, beginning from manufacturers, wholesalers, suppliers have already stopped operating. The reason, they've got no orders and they have no demands for them to go ahead and do their work. And the end users are going away buying gold, because the reason, a small piece of gold has already gone up to a very high price where they can't afford to buy. So, you see, now what we can see now is the other side, the investment has increased from the young teenagers who have been having some money from their parents, from the forefathers, already come into the industry to do the purchasing. Now, this is something which is very good for the savings for the whole world, but it's affected for the domestic sales, and the retailers are totally down in the market. We don't know where are we going to head, because I'm under the Malaysian Indian Goldsmiths Jewelers Association. Now we have got about 300 over jewelers in Malaysia itself, where we are operating retail business, where I hope that there is totally has been drowned in the world. Now this is going to be a big present worst situation when the price just goes up like this. Now what we can see now is every day 3%, 5% is increasing, which we cannot sustain.
Next question. With the 30 to 40% increase in interest among the younger generation, especially since 2015, what strategies are being employed to actually cater this demographic? What about the influence on cultural events, especially when it comes to, the gold demand, the purchasing of gold?
The increase of the young generation has happened from 2015. I suppose it must be 2020, because 2020 the young teenagers have come into the market to buy. The other side is, what we can see is, we are now losing many gold mines going away from us, because they have been it's already closing down, because there is no productions and all these happenings over there. Now, how do we address from our association? That's another thing, because we are getting a lot of feedbacks from our members saying that they've been doing very low. Every month their sales have been dropping. Their overheads are still maintaining the same and going high. Now this is another big question, where if the price reaches $3,500 which is expected to happen very soon, if the situation continues the same, but the situation should not continue. That's my argument over here. Now, during this term, during this period, I hope that the whole world has to come together on our gold industry to come back to make it stable.
Now, still on the luxury items and market shift, given the decline in diamond sales, Datuk, what measures are being taken into consideration to revive interest in diamonds?
The consumers in diamond are already walking away, because the industry is now seem to be very soft, and those who are in the diamond industry and also in their sales and all that has become very poor in their sales, and they are diverting themselves into a different gold market and all these things. So here what we can see is, luxury items are not in jewelry, not in gold industry, because luxury item means those you can't get back. That is called luxury item. This is already become gold. AU has become a metal which is become a property now. Yellow metal has become a property. Now, even you have a 1 gram of gold is a property. So we can't take it into the market saying that it is a luxury item, or we cannot take it as a gold into the returns. Without returns, we can't get that. We can't mention as a gold metal, as we can't get back the returns. So gold will be always staying the high, and also it has to come back to a shape where we can continue our business properly.
Of course, the supply chain and China's influence here. How does this affect the local industry in terms of pricing and supply?
Many countries, like big brothers like India, China, and other big countries, have already been focused into gold, where they are stocking up their gold. That's one factor where we can see the price of gold increasing, and the young generation is also purchasing on themselves. So this is the other factor affecting for the gold price to go up. Another thing is, those who are hedging, those who are making quick money, they are making into buying and selling within 24 hours, 48 hours or a week. I'm getting now big profit. This is where, you see, the price of gold increases. This is all unstable situation. This situation continues, I think the whole industry is going to be burst. This is what I can see now for the timing, and we are now worried, and we don't know what we are going to do the next. We hope the whole situation will improve and come back to a better situation to continue our business and to the retailers for the whole world.
Right. Thank you so much, Datuk Roslan, for your insights. Of course, this discussion is not going to end here. Please stay tuned for more updates on NSC Online. But the episode is not yet over. We're still going to be discussing about property handovers, homeowners' rights, and how we can handle defects post the handover process. And with that, Joshua, thank you so much for sitting in and listening to the whole discussion earlier. But for our round of discussion, I want to talk about the dream home letdown, right? I want to talk about the moment after a key is being handed over to a homeowner. Why are we still seeing property defects being prevalent?
All right, I think in order to answer this question, then we must understand the construction culture in Malaysia. Because in Malaysia, we actually relying on a lot of foreign workers. As we know, most of these foreign workers, while they are actually staying in their hometown or their country, original country, they are not the construction workers. They might be farmer, they might be teacher, they might be engineer. But once they come to Malaysia, out of sudden, they become a plasterer, they become a tailor, they become a skim coater, which is suddenly they become a construction worker. And this is the main reason why we the purchaser, when we receive a new house, we found that the workmanship, the quality is not up to the mark.
But when we talk about accountability, it's easy to blame the foreign workers, the downline, right? But when we talk about true accountability, it should actually start from the employers, developers themselves, architects themselves. Are we not seeing enough accountability on that level? How do we govern then this?
I think for the developer, definitely this is our responsibility. So as a developer, when they deliver their product, they must ensure their product or their houses has been constructed according to the plan, to construct according to their spec, and also constructed according to the quality they require. So definitely this is under their responsibility. But having said that, developer, they are not the builder. They will actually outsource or tender the project to the main contractor, which is the main contractor. They will later engage the subcontractor, and eventually you see how the foreign worker, they will come into the picture and create a problem in our construction industry.
I see, okay. The idea that the developers are not construction workers or contractors themselves and they subcon, right? Still, it lies back to them because they are the one who grant the projects. How can we ensure transparency when it comes to, let's say, from the blueprint up until handing over the key is being taken care of efficiently, so that there is no loopholes whereby when the homeowners get their property or get their unit, they are not experiencing a lot of back and forth in terms of having to address the defect and within that time frame, right? Within the DLP period here. How can we address the common loopholes here? Because not a lot of homeowners have the visibility that this developer subcon it to this contractor or this builder, right? Can they actually have a say, or what are the avenues that they can do more research on or more inputs on?
I would say for the homeowners, before we buy the property, definitely we can actually have some research on the background of the developers as well as the contractors. And in fact, there are many homeowners that ask me, say, Joshua, in Malaysia, who is the best developer in Malaysia? So I would say it's very difficult to determine who is the best, because for each different phases, the main contractor will be different. But having said that, for us as a home buyers, we can actually benchmark, for example, the quality of the project by comparing the QLASIC score. Okay, QLASIC score actually is the assessment system implemented by CIDB Malaysia, which is for the project when it's completed. The assessor from CIDB, they will go to that particular project and they will carry out an independent quality assessment. So at the end, a score will be given.
Okay.
So with the score, as a home buyers, then we can gauge the quality for that particular project.
Do you think the engagements between agencies such as like CIDB is enough to address the current predicament that many home buyers are experiencing, especially when it comes to having to fit within the certain time frame that the DLP, the defect liability period here, DLP, that's what it means for our audience who don't know, because they're not clear in terms of what DLP actually covers. So is CIDB also doing enough, or can homeowners reach out to any other agencies that are free for them to understand or take certain information from?
Yes, I think so for the homeowners, they actually seeking help from some of the consultants. I would say in Malaysia, we have a lot of issues consultant. We have your architect, we have engineer, we have building surveyors, we have valuer, and also we have this house buyer association, which is they are there to assist the home buyers. So whenever the home buyers they encounter any issue, they can always refer the case to the home buyer association. Having said that, for example, if there's any dispute arise between the developer and also the home buyers, they can actually bring out the case to the home buyer tribunal, which is they are in the market, they are there to assist the home buyer in case if there's any dispute arise about the workmanship, about the late delivery. All these cases can be brought up to the home buyer tribunal.
I see. In your years of experience having to inspect buildings, right? What are some of the red flags that at least our audience or potential home buyers must look into when buying a new property or when engaging in a developer project?
Red flag meaning that you are looking at.
Red flag meaning things that you know is a problem, that the developer might not be the perfect one. For instance, past projects that they might not be able to complete, those kind of red flags.
Okay, I think for the home buyers, we actually, in Malaysia, actually, it's hardly for us to, we don't have any particular resources actually to trace on the history, on their workmanship. What we have here actually is we can actually check on their, for example, during the launching, we can see the brochure, the information they're given, and also we can see the SMP or the mock-up unit where they constructed. Then we can see about the design, the material they're using. But the best way is if we have a chance, we can go back to the developer of the past project. Then we can have a better understanding about their quality, about their design, whether it's meeting with our standard or requirement or not.
I see. So it still requires some manual sort of intervention from the home buyers.
Exactly.
I mean, but in any case, any materials or any goods that you want to procure, as a consumer, you have to do your research. It goes back to that argument, right? Okay. Maybe our audience want to also understand, what does the Certificate of Completion and Compliance, CCC, actually means? Maybe you're able to explain this?
All right. So CCC basically is issued by the project architect, meaning that when the project is completed, when the project is complying with all the requirements according to the UBBL, Uniform Building Bylaw, meaning they already comply with all the requirements, and for example, the bomba requirement, the others requirements set by the local council, one is complied with, then the project architect, they will basically issue a CCC to identify, to say that that particular project is now physically completed and ready to be handed over to the home buyers.
I see. But is there a third-party check if the property indeed actually qualifies for CCC?
Currently, no, because architect, they are the sole person that taking out the full responsibility on this.
Okay. Then how should we entrust the architect then?
They are the professional. So definitely, we trust that they will carry out their work professionally.
I see. In this sense, what should a buyer do? I mean, not everyone can actually go out and afford another sort of property or even go to court, even take their case to court, right? So what should a buyer do in situations such as this?
All right. So in order to protect our right as a home buyers, I will recommend when the home buyers will take possession of a new house, never rush for the renovation. Never. Hold it for a while, but you must carry out a building inspection. Meaning, when you're taking possession of a new house, you must check your property. Make sure the house has been constructed according to the spec, has been constructed according to what has been written in our SPA, Sales and Purchase Agreement, and make sure it has been constructed according to the standard that require. So that we can submit the defects to the defect report to the developer. So, for the developer, for them to come in and rectify the defects. especially during the defect liability period.
Right. So earlier I mentioned about not many homeowners know about this DLP period, right?
Alright.
And whether or not this DLP period is a standard amount of time, whether or not it's regulated, you're able to clarify on that. But can you simply like identify what's included in the DLP and what's not? Is there a standard guide, a standard sort of term and conditions?
All right. So if you refer to our SPA, Sales and Purchase Agreement, so it mentioned about defects. We mentioned about defect liability period, right? Then first thing we need to know is what is defect? How are we going to define defects? Okay, if we refer to the SPA, defect referring to two. Okay, first item is we referring to the defective material or the faulty material. Example, there are some scratches on the door. For example, there's a chipping on the floor tiles. For example, the window glasses is actually broken. All this we consider as the defective material. Secondly, under the definition of defect is shoddy workmanship, meaning that the workmanship itself is not up to the mark, not up to the standard. So this is basically the definition of defects. And also one more. One more is actually about the compliance to the requirement. For example, just I mentioned about the UBBL, there are some rules and regulations that be set by the local council. So you must make sure that all these requirements must be complied with.
Okay, so we're talking about the proximity, or at least the within the reach of a home buyer's sort of accessibility when they get their property, right? For instance, if you buy a new apartment, it's your apartment unit. If you buy a landed house, it's within the premise of the square meters of your house lah, right? But you don't have to check the next door neighbor property. But sometimes the problem is the whole project itself. So you've done the due diligence for your DLP, but later, after the DLP period ends, because it's a big issue, right? For instance, if it's an apartment, it's a piping issue. So in that context, how can the association or the homeowners within that particular taman or apartment can address this? Where do they go to?
I believe you're referring to those high-end with some common areas, right? Commons. All right, for this common area, I would say yes, it should be under the owner responsibility as well. Because for the homeowners, when you're buying a property, it's not only limited to the unit itself, but it's also included those common area. For example, the corridor, swimming pool, all the piping are all included. That's why it's very important. As a home buyers, when we take on possession of a new house, we are not only to check for our own unit, but we should extend the inspection to the common area to make sure the common area has been constructed in the proper manner as well.
Right. And the time frame to check that usually is what?
Okay, for residential area under the HDA, Housing Development Act, is 24 months. That means 2 years.
Okay, so that's a lot of time, ample enough of time to check, not just your own unit, but the common areas that you're using.
Yes,
right. And then an apartment is easy, but if you're also in a taman, let's say a private residency or gated area, then you can actually check like the roads leading up to your driveway. Is it okay? Are the conditions okay enough? So yeah, I mean that's new information that even I don't know. I thought the inspection is within the property that you own.
If you build a condominium, the route inside, yes, we can do that. But for example, we are buying the landed property. The route will be surrendered to a local council.
Oh, local council. Okay.
So it's not under the responsibility of the developer.
But what about the playground? Let's say it's in a gated area, right?
Gated garden.
Gated garden, and they've got their own park and everything. Is that considered also?
If under strata title, then it is.
If it's under strata title. I see. Okay. Oh, interesting. I never knew that. I mean, it's not that I have a property, but I'm looking to plan to buy one. So it's important information. Now, we go into consumer empowerment again. What sort of recourse do you think homeowners do really have when developers drag their feet in addressing those defects? Can they actually be more held accountable in court or even before going to court?
As I mentioned earlier, for homeowners, in order to protect our right, we must make sure that we carry out the proper building inspection, defect inspection, when we taken possession of the new house, because this is something that the action that we taken, it will give us a ground to protect us in case in future there's any dispute happen. Yeah.
Okay. But in terms of fixing the system itself, right? Because sometimes applying for a request, the bureaucracy of having to deal with with this property developer and then going to the authorities for it. What sort of regulation loopholes do we need to address to avoid Malaysians having this track record of having to buy new properties but shoddy workmanship, as you mentioned?
I would say currently, you look at our system, when I'm buying the property, the information given is not sufficient, it's not detailed enough. Giving an example, if I'm buying the property in our SPA, if you turn to the last few pages of the SPA, it will written down, okay, you're going to receive how many numbers of PowerPoint, you're going to receive, for example, good quality of log set. But how are we going to define that good quality of log set? So for example, when I'm buying the property, they actually don't have any particular standard that actually mention about the workmanship they're going to receive. For most of the homeowner, when I'm buying property, most of the time they would like to visit the mock-up unit, show unit, which is, wow, very beautiful. But bear in mind, when we're taking possession of a new house, you say, oh, alamak, it's totally different from what I've seen in the mock-up unit. This is something that actually is lacking off, I would say. Currently, for the developer, when they're selling the property, the detail is, I would say, is very sufficient. It's not sufficient, it's very surface, very limited only, the information is given. That's why I think for a purchaser, in terms of fixing our system, we need to have a more so-called the proper system or things to be stated down. What are the quality we can expect from? What type of brand of material we can receive? What type of quality that we can receive?
Right.
So this is something that we can take note. And secondly, I look at it is about when I take position in a new house, right, for the home buyers.
Right.
Currently, in the market, there are a lot of these so-called home inspectors.
Okay.
But trust me, a lot of them, they are not qualified.
Oh, sorry. What do you mean by a lot of home inspectors coming to...
Yeah, they are not qualified.
Okay.
Especially after the MCO, we can see many people turn out become the home inspector.
You mean appointed by the developers? Or?
No, they are basically, some of them are actually part-timer. Okay, some of them, yes, they are full-time, but basically they might have certain years working experience in the construction, but after that, they just come out, provide such services for the home buyers.
I see.
Yeah. So remember, as I mentioned, for us to protect our right as a home buyers, we must make sure all the defects has been captured properly during the defect period. That means the proper report must be prepared. And then who is the person that actually carry out the inspection is also very important.
Right.
We must get the qualified and experienced and competent persons to carry out such an inspection.
Right.
Yeah.
Could you share with me why you actually went into building inspection in the beginning? Because you started out not in this, right? So what were some takeaways? At least maybe you heard actual grouses from home buyers. I'm sure you're a home buyer yourself, right? So
yes,
what led
definitely.
you into actually inspecting buildings?
All right, I think first thing is because I like building.
Okay.
Definitely, I like building. I've been working many years, about 11 years with the developers that I've seen through the entire process.
Okay.
When the building is being constructed, how a unit being handed over to the purchaser, and what are the problems facing by the developers, what are the challenges facing by the home buyers, and etc. I went through all this, and because my professions, I'm actually the building surveyor by profession.
I see.
That's why I have a strong interest in say, I should stand up to provide such services for the home buyers.
Right.
Yeah.
And when you say that, you have seen developers, having to face certain issues, especially in completing a project, can you share that? What are some of the issues? You would think that a developer, before they commit to a project, they had everything ready, right? So what are they?
Ideally, yes, they have everything ready, but basically during the construction, there are three things they are struggling. First thing actually is time. For the constructions, there's a time frame. Within a certain time frame, the developer, they must complete their project and hand over the projects to the home buyers. So there's a time challenges they need to face. Second is cost. As we know now with the tariff, all the material price has been rising up. And against once the project has been sold, the developer, they have to take up the responsibility. They have to to bear the cost, the rising cost of the material. So this is another challenges that they are facing. And the third one will be on the quality. Yeah, as I mentioned, they are not builder. They are relying on the contractors, and the contractors are depending on the foreign workers. So at the end, they are suffering.
But the issue with the downline here, the foreign workers, is more on skill sets, right? So it's up to the contractors as well to employ proper builders in assisting a project, right? So property defect is one thing, but developer not meeting the time frame of a certain project, which led to a development being abandoned entirely. How do we address this? I mean, this is in general, right? So, because we see a lot of buildings popping up, sometimes halfway through, they not get attended. It's a big issue. And as a, I suppose, building surveyor yourself, obviously you don't like seeing abandoned buildings, abandoned structures, right? So how should we address this? How can developers be more accountable, be more realistic in whatever they take on?
I would say for the abandoned project, most of the cases is due to the financial issue, meaning that the money collected, it has not been channeled down, to the entire process. Because for the current practice that in Malaysia, for a developer, when they sell the property, normally they will collect the money from the home buyers. So with the money collected, it's supposed to be used for that particular project. But sometimes the condition or situation is not.
Yeah, we factor in. Yeah,
the money has been spent in somewhere. That's why causing that for that particular project, they are facing the financial crisis. They are facing some money issue. They are not afford to pay the builder. They are not afford to pay the workers. And at the end, the result is the entire process will stop. And we see the abandoned project. This is how actually what happened.
Right. So on that, again, what sort of regulation do we need more to stop this from happening? Like auditing, I'm not too sure. Like, are there any, metric that we need to entrust our developers or the stakeholders involved to ensure that no such thing happens again?
I would say in this case, our government have done it very well, which is they have this HDA account, meaning that in order to become a developer, all the money collected now, it cannot be channeled to other area. It must be channeled into the particular HDA account, meaning that account is meant for that particular project only. So this is to prevent the money has been misused, to the other areas. So I would say this is current practice that we have. So the other thing is, I would say for the home buyers, we must make sure that we check through the background of the developers.
As you mentioned.
Yeah.
What do you think about the concept of build and sell? Because right now it's like you don't build first, you sell first before you build, right? So what do you think about moving towards a more build and sell sort of approach here?
I would say this is a good idea, meaning that for a purchaser, before I buy, I can see my product. I can see the product with the price given, then whether I'm satisfied or not. If I'm satisfied, then only I pay. But the disadvantage for the developer is they need to fork out the upfront money to finish the entire development
First.
Yeah, so these are the challenges actually.
Okay, but in terms of I'm not too sure if you have some sort of data or visibility, but when it comes to the build and sell approach, do developers actually sell properties better that way as well?
I would say yes, definitely.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it does fly off the market once it's built
definitely,
first,
because the product is there. That means for the buyers, I'm more confident. I know that with the money that I pay, I can get my product. I can see the houses myself. I know the quality. I know the design. I know the material that been used for that particular project. Then I buy and I get it. So I will definitely say that yes, we can sell the product even better.
Since we're already at the end of the episode, do you have at least one last tip for homeowners when they want to purchase, or at least when they get their key? What do they need to do first?
Okay, tips for the home buyers are, first one, check the background of the developer, definitely, to see their past project, how's their reputation, the feedback, from the past owners. This is one, to check on the background. Secondly, I would say before you buy, maybe you want to get some detail from the developer as well. For example, I'm buying this property. What type of material you're going to provide to us? Don't just tell me quality lock set. Don't just tell us that we're going to give you good tiles. What type of tiles? What type of brand of the tiles? I think be more specific. And also, it will be good if the developer can tell us the quality standard. Meaning that when I receive the new house, what type of quality that I can expect. So this is something that I would say is very important for the home buyers. Before we buy, we can actually asking all this information from the developers. And when we take possession of a new house, as I highlighted earlier, home buyers must make sure get their unit inspected.
And with a certified
Exactly,
building
with the
inspector.
certified building surveyor or building inspector, make sure that all the defects has been captured so that they can be protected throughout the entire section of this DLP, defect liability period.
Well, thank you so much, Joshua, for that reminder. And at least for our audience, I hope that helps you in terms of how you can navigate a more transparent sort of approach when buying an apartment or buying a house, whatever property you're trying to purchase, or at least when you already purchase something, you're about to get that key, right? So these are the things that you need to take into consideration. I mean, apart from things that you can't change on a policy standpoint, of course. Well, unfortunately, this is the end of our episode. But of course, if you like this episode, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Don't forget to also turn on the notification bell if you haven't already. You'll not only get NSC Beyond the Headlines update, other NSC online news reports will be delivered to you. I'd like to thank Datuk Abdul, Rasul Abdul Razak, President of the Malaysian Indian Goldsmith and Jewelers Association, for joining us earlier on Beyond the Headlines. Thank you so much, Datuk.
Thank you.
I'd like to also thank Joshua Kang again for your insights and joining us here on set for Beyond the Headlines. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Don't forget to also follow us on X, Facebook, Instagram, as well as TikTok. My name is Amalina Kamal, and I'll see you next week.